After Typhoon Mangkhut caused last Sunday's meeting at Sha Tin to be cancelled, racing is back in Hong Kong with a 10-race card at Sha Tin this Saturday. Here's what we've got coming up for you on HK Direct. We'll be looking at some of the lessons we've learned so far this season with our special guest, Andrew Hawkins. Plus, we hear from a number of our jockeys on who are horses that we should be following from this point of the season on. As mentioned, Andrew Hawkins is our special guest. Andrew, good to have you back on HK Direct.
It's great to be back, Edward.
We've had a bit of time to think about things. An unusual time here in Hong Kong. No Wednesday night meeting, and then before that, no Sunday meeting due to the typhoon. So we've had some time to have a look at what's happened so far this season. A number of talking points as there are leading into any new season here in Hong Kong. The main one, though, for mine was no Joe Moreira and a number of other jockeys leaving Hong Kong, a change in the riding ranks. How have you seen what's happened over the 4 meetings we've had so far as the riders are concerned?
I think it's pretty much paid to script how we expected it would play out. The way we expected it to play out was that there would be the opportunity for a second rider to step up to potentially challenge Zach Purton for the Jockeys Championship. I think that's the way it's played out so far. Zach's had the majority of really strong rides. He's only ridden, 5 winners so far, but he's doing very well to date. You can see, look, 11 seconds. Clearly, he's the dominant rider in Hong Kong currently. But there is still that opportunity there for a second rider to come into that position and potentially challenge. We've seen Karis Teeton step up with that treble, and notably for Tony Cruz, obviously. So some more support there for him. Plus, he's riding some very nice horses in the trials. We've also seen Vincent Ho obviously have a very strong start to the season, 4 winners so far, coming off the back of that UK experience, as you talked to him about it last week. But there's still opportunities there. Chad Schofield's had a number of strong rides. We're also seeing Derek Leung step up as well. So I think there's more opportunities there. Umberto Rispoli's also had some very good rides. So I think there's going to be that opportunity for the second rider as we expected. It just still remains to be seen who that rider is.
So Purton's pretty much continued from where he left off last season as our leading jockey. You mentioned Vincent Ho. Karis Teeton, for me, is the interesting one, and you refer to that alliance with Tony Cruz. For mine, that's come a little bit out of left field, but then you listen to Tony's explanation of it. Joe was number 2, Zach number 1 last season, Karis number 3. He's the logical fill-in, according to Tony, and a big opportunity for Karis to be riding for Tony Cruz and on horses like Pakistan Star.
Most definitely, and we're going to see that again this weekend with Pakistan Friend, that association. But I think what is really key is that Karis also has a very strong alliance with the John Sy stable, and yet we haven't seen John Sy's fire early in the season, which is normal for him. Once John gets these really good horses back to the races, I think you might see Karis starting to really stamp himself as that second rider.
We'll get to John Sy's more in a moment, but let's continue on with the riders. 2 new ones, so to speak. Callum Murray had a stint in Hong Kong a season or so ago. Grant van der Kerk, first time here. Differing fortunes for the 2 South Africans joining the riding ranks this season. Most
definitely. I think Grant was very fortunate to get that first win on Triumphant Jewel in the first race of the season, and from there he's been able to capitalise. He's getting some nice rides. He's still not cemented himself entirely amongst the riding ranks yet, but he's definitely on the right track to be able to do so. With Callum Murray, it's a bit different. He hasn't quite had the same horsepower underneath him. He hasn't had the same good rides that Grant's had, and he's also managed to pick up suspensions, which is not a great thing when you're trying to build momentum. So it's definitely been a differing start for the 2. You'd hope that Callan can potentially pick up, and if that's the case, then he can definitely find that spot in the jockey ranks.
Let's go from the jockeys to the trainers. You look at the stats so far this season. Tony Cruz had a terrific season last season, particularly in the second half of things. He's leading the way in the Trainers' Championship at this point in time, but the story really has been Jimmy Ting.
Absolutely, it has been. Although I must say I loved Jimmy's quip after he won the first race at Happy Valley the other night, and he said, look, I'm winning these races because I've got horses down in Class 4 and Class 5. I don't have any superstars in the stable. At least he's able to maintain that realism, and I think that's really crucial for him as he goes forward. He's not going to have a season where he's going to be like Frankie Law, training 60 winners in a season and coming out with a really strong team. He just doesn't have the horses to be able to do that. But he does have the horses that are at their right marks, they're able to win, and he's going to have a very solid first season, and from there he's going to be able to build, and I think that's really crucial.
Certainly doing very well at this stage of the season. Jimmy, a 44% strike rate, so a great start for him in his training career in his first season. What about the two Johns, though? Moore and Size. 17 trainers' titles between the two of them. They are big race trainers here in Hong Kong, but no wins yet after the first few meetings. Would you be concerned if you're in their position?
I don't think so at all. Look at John Size last season. He was last going into November, and he still managed to have the trainer's title wrapped up come, March or April. So I think for John Size, when you look at the horses he has in his yard, not just at the higher levels, which obviously he's got an incredible hand of sprinters. He's got some very nice horses coming through, like Nothing I Like More, Ping Hai Star. But then you also look at his lower grade horses, and lots of them have plenty of points in hand. With John Size, there's no concern. He just takes his time, and that's been his modus operandi for many years. For John Moore, I think it's a little bit different. John doesn't have the same sort of horses in his yard, those Class 3, Class 4 mainstays that are going to win 5 races, 4 races in a season. However, he always shines come the big races, and as always, he's been out buying horses over the off-season. So I don't think there's any cause for concern yet. You'd obviously be concerned if they haven't managed to pick up come December, which I think was the same thing last year. Once you knew that we got past December and he wasn't getting the same number of wins on the board heading into 4-year-old Classic Series season, then that was concerning, and I think it's going to be the same this year. Not
necessarily as far as the trainers are concerned, but from a training point of view, a new aspect to Hong Kong racing this season has been the opening of the Chung Fa Training Centre up in mainland China. What impact has that had on horses and their performance from the few samples that we've had so far this season, Andrew?
I think we've seen horses come back more relaxed. Horses that have attitude problems have come back better behaved. I think for horses that have been in the system for a long time, just the opportunity to get away from Sha Tin and to be in a different environment has really helped. We've seen horses like Happy Sound, Most Beautiful, already come out and win. And I was speaking to Casper Founds about Happy Sound, and he was saying that just getting away from Sha Tin and getting up to Chung Fa really made that difference to him. But I think for horses that have run well without winning, we've seen C Pearl do that. We've seen Helene Charisma, both John Moore trained. I think Helene Charisma especially is a horse that's had notable problems since he's come in. Obviously a Group 1 winner in France, but just getting back to Chung Fa, getting away from the system has allowed him to just find that new lease of life, and that might actually end up taking him to a point where he can win a race or two this season, which I think John Moore would be very happy about.
We might even see that on Saturday. He runs in the Class 3 over 1,800 metres. So they're the thoughts from both Andrew and myself as far as the trainers and jockeys are concerned so far in the early stages of season 2018-2019. But as far as the jockeys go, have they got any horses that we should be following this season?
One that I ride, I really like, Harmony Hero. He obviously came last season, had a few runs, showed glimpses of really good ability, and he was quite immature last season, but I really like the way he's developed into a more mature horse with the break. I've ridden him one trial at Happy Valley a couple of weeks ago, and he's impressing me at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do this season.
Yeah, like Little Bird, which he tried very nice in Happy Valley. He's going to run soon, and it's a nice horse. I think with the experience, it will be a nice Class 3 horse. But for the moment, we'll see how the new season is going for him, because he finished last season well. He won a Class 4, then he ran third in the Class 3. So we'll see this year if he improves. How I saw in the morning in the track work, it seems like a nice Class 3 horse. But it's the track will talk for us.
It's still early in the season, but I won on a horse for Tony Cruz about a week ago, Circus number 2. Still very young, but I think the horse have a bit to improve still.
You know, it's early days yet. There's still a lot of horses to come out and whatever. But one nice PPG I've trialled for Frankie Law. He's only had one trial, so it's very early days. But he's an Exceeding Excel horse called he's called Big Party. Nice big grey. He's very raw. Like, I mean, he's a long way off, but he's one I think has a nice bit of potential.
Is there any PPs from the UK or from Europe that you've seen coming over here that we should be taking notice of?
Well, I do follow the British racing still a lot, watch a lot of replays, and I'm very up to date on the form, but there's a very large batch of them that come across, and I'd rather have a lot of them than than just pick one. But there's one nice horse going to Peter Ho called Magnificent. He was trained by Richard Hannon, and he finished third in the Britannia. His form was quite strong. He's still a maiden, but which is quite bizarre. But he's a lovely big horse, and if you watch him in these races, he's always travelled very strong. Always had a very high cruising speed, and it'd be interesting to see how he comes. He looks a quite nice temperament sort of horse, but if he comes and settles in, he could hit the ground running. He's a nice horse.
Interesting insight from some of our riders there. Neil Callan pointing out Magnificent, who contested and ran third in the Britannia. That's been a happy hunting ground for Hong Kong connections in the past, that race.
Most definitely. It's become something of a Hong Kong sales race. We've seen horses like Beauty Flame come out here. We've seen Limitless. We've seen Born in China. They've all come out of the race and have done fairly well in Hong Kong. We've seen the likes of Harbour Master, who was beaten in the Britannia, and he's performed to a high level in Hong Kong. I think they'd be hoping the same with Magnificent.
Let's fire in a couple of our own horses to follow while we're here then, Andrew, and I'll go to the barrier trials and go for a PPG called Naboo Star. He's an ISG in actual fact. This is his most recent trial at Happy Valley. He's had 2 trials overall in his time in Hong Kong from the Casper Found stable. Called his first trial in May, and I did like the way that he finished off. This is in the early part of September, just a couple of weeks ago. They ran along at a good tempo in this trial. I really like the way that he finished off. I do like the turn of foot that he showed on both occasions. Quickened up nicely to win that trial. I think that he'll be winning races this season. So for me, Naboo Star is a horse that I think we should be following this season. I know you've got one too. You like a horse called Harmony Victory, who trialled well, I thought, also at the pre-season carnival. Let's have a look at him. He ran on the first day of the season. He got back, but you must have been taken by what he did in the home straight.
Very much so. What he managed to do, obviously, the way the race unfolded, the winner was world record. He came from behind him. Second placed Rattan was just ahead of him here. But I liked the way that he managed to find his way through. He's found the line nicely, which is very good to see from a PP first up in Hong Kong. He was actually more of a forward-running type over further when he was in Brazil. Generally, South American horses coming to Hong Kong, you don't really want to be following them. But I think this horse, who was a Group 1 winner down in South America, coming from Brazil, I can't say his name in Portuguese, it was something like Castro Jaguarete.
Good attempt.
Exactly, we tried. But I think for him, he's a horse who can progress, and I think we're going to see more of him in the coming weeks and months.
And speaking to you off air as well, too, you're in agreement with Chad. Harmony Heroes one to follow?
I do think that Harmony Heroes one to follow. I was a big fan of what he did in Australia when he beat Mighty Boss, the Caulfield Guineas winner. What he did as a 3-year-old here was very good, and I think he can only progress. So I think we're going to be having a harmonious season.
Absolutely. All right, let's look forward to getting back to the races this Saturday at Sha Tin after a mini hiatus. If you want to watch the action, you can do so through the trackside coverage, which commences at 12:30. Our trophy race is the Farcade Cup Handicap at 3 o'clock. That's race 5. The highest class event is the Washington, D.C. Handicap. The lucky last, a class 2 over 1,400 metres. So an American theme for racing on Saturday. Andrew, thanks for your company. Next time we'll be doing HK Direct, we'll be looking at a couple of really good Group 3s that we've got. So the big horses are coming back, hopefully bigger and better than ever.
Most definitely. It's always an exciting time once the 1st of October rolls around and we get to the National Day Cup and the Celebration Cup. Some very exciting horses stepping out, and we'll see a few at the barrier trials tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. Hope you can join us as well too for HK Direct next Friday. But until then, bye-bye.